Welcome back to the Go to Go podcast, man. Episode 60, week 6 of the NFL season coming up right around the corner, man. This week, got another segment, Hot or Not, and then we're going to get into those week 6 pick'ems quickly. Recapping week 5, man. First week of the buys. First time dipping below 500 for me, man. 6-8, you 8-7. That brings you to me to 46-32, you to 48-30. I think that's wrong, low key. Nah, that's right. So 2 games better than me at this point in the season, man. It's all right, man. Long.
Yeah, and I had to go back and fix that, bro, because you tried to.
I put 47, didn't I?
Yeah, come on, man. Jax took a big win, man. Like, you're not gonna give me credit for that? That was a team when I went back. You didn't count as like a win for me, so I'm like,
Man,
I had to go back
miscounted.
I had to go back and change it. It's right now though. Trying to steal games, steal points. See how it is.
Anyways, man, that's what happens when you do that shit on the clock, bro. Regardless, I had the record right because I had you 7-7. Yeah, you're right. I messed up. But jumping into those hot or nots, man, I'll give you the honors. Week 5 crowns on your head.
All right, start it off. Hot or not, the Minnesota Vikings should look to trade some of their assets and call it a season.
This is not a hot take, man. 1-4. This point in the season, Justin Jefferson going to IR, man. Kirk Cousins last year of his, deal aging quarterback. What do you want to do there? You got some pieces you could move. Defensive line, you got a couple of pieces. You could maybe get some good return. And then offensively, you got some weapons that you could trade away as well. But depending on who they want to get rid of, that's in question. Kirk's name has popped up and, maybe they look to move him. What team would be a fit? Would the Jets be a fit? What are they willing to give up? It'd just be a 1-year deal. So if Rodgers comes back, yada, yada, yada. But, I mean, the Vikings could very well be 4-1 at this point. The end of the Chiefs game. We know, man, those refs were out there playing the script for the Chiefs just like they were the week before with the Jets. Regardless of the fact, you look at that win-loss record, and right now, they still have a shot to win the division, possibly. I mean, the Lions right now cruising through is the, number 1 team, but it wouldn't be shocking if they decided to move on some pieces this year, start building towards the future, and maybe lock up Justin Jefferson at the end of the year as well.
All right, staying in that division, how to not, the Detroit Lions are a true contender in the NFL.
I mean, that's not a hot take either. They're definitely a contender. Last year we saw them come onto the scene late. Good second half for the Detroit Lions. And the first time, I mean, they've won in Lambeau, and I don't know how many years they did that. A few weeks ago, Jared Goff, that offense clicking. They get Jameson Williams back, one of their top picks from 2 years ago who dealt with that ACL injury and then suspended for gambling. Yeah, I mean, the running back situation, David Montgomery's looking like a monster. You got Jahmyr Gibbs back there. Amon-Ra, I mean, De La Porta's looking good at the tight end for Jared Goff's safety blanket. Defense, decides to make some plays late in the game. They could definitely be contending for a Super Bowl. I don't think they will actually get there because I think there's some better teams out there, but they're definitely, able to make a run in the January into the playoffs.
All right, and then the last one is hot or not. Cincinnati Bengals are back to being the best team in the AFC North.
That's a hot take. 1 week, Joe Burrow finally looked like Joe Burrow. Jamar Chase, 7-11, Mr. Always Open. He got it going last week, but it's one game. Got to see it on a consistent basis. I mean, I'm just not buying into this Bengals hype. I know everyone's like, oh, the Bengals are back. The Bengals are back. Let's just slow our horses, man. I don't think they're just back just yet. So, I mean, they played the Arizona Cardinals, too. I mean, they played better than expectations have so far in the Cardinals. But we came into the season looking at them as a, probably the number 1 option in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. So, but
yeah, that was all. Only had 3 this week.
Yeah. Jumping into my hot or not, got another NFC North one for you. Hot or not, we overreacted at how good the Packers actually are.
What do you mean, like, overreacted to how good they actually are? Like, off
Did,
of what
did we
context?
overhype them? Did we rank them higher than they, actually are after these last 2 weeks?
I'm gonna say no. I had them second in the division coming into the season. That's exactly where they are, I believe. I think they're a better team than Chicago right now, and we talked about Minnesota. They're pretty much shutting down their season, or on the verge of. And I think the Lions are clearly the best team in that division right now. But the Packers they're the youngest team in the NFL. You see some flashes, they're really good, but with a young, inexperienced team, you're gonna have growing pains. You're gonna see some of those boneheaded mistakes, and that's just who the Packers are. I think they're right now just a average team with upside, and you're gonna get those big dips and those really high highs. So I don't think we overreacted, or I didn't overreact really coming into this season. I thought they would be a good team, show some flashes. I like Jordan Love, his progression, but against the Raiders, had a rough game. But that's what you're gonna expect with a young team. No real, veteran presence out there for Jordan Love to rely on the outside, weapons-wise. And Jordan Love himself, this is his first full year starting. Yeah, it was nice, to get those reps behind Rodgers and learn the offense. But at the end of the day, you got to go out, you got to play, you got to get those game reps. That's the only way you get better. So we're seeing that right now in real time. I don't think we overreacted, or I overreacted in a sense, because I kind of thought this is who they'd be. They have some nice games. They'll have some, decent wins, but they'll also have some ugly losses and some things you want to see improve. So I had them exactly where they are right now, second in the division. So I'm gonna say that is a hot take, that you think we had them overrated, because I think I had them perfectly rated.
You had them at number 9, bro. I don't know if you remember our little power. You had them ahead of the Lions too before they went head to head.
Oh, you was talking about? See, I didn't know what you were talking about. Okay, coming off of that last week. Then yeah, they're not the 9th best team in the league, but in terms of like the overall scope, I think this is where they are. But they have like the potential to be that good, but I think they also have the floor to be really, really bad. So I don't really. That's just like my breakdown of the Packers right now. It's like lukewarm. That's where I'm at.
Lukewarm. Room temp.
Yeah.
All right, man. Next one up. Hot or not, Pittsburgh's defense will clinch them a playoff berth.
I'm gonna say that's a hot take right now. Just because their defense has played well, but I don't think they've played good enough to clinch a playoff berth. Now, they've made some big plays in certain moments, but I think defensively there's still some things, kind of left out for that Steelers team. We saw what C.J. Stroud did to him, hung up 30 on him, although it was on the road. And then, yesterday they lose at home to Baltimore. If it isn't, personnel issues, a bunch of drop catches, we saw all that. Lamar with, a couple of bad throws, one mistake here or there. So you want to see more from the Steelers defense. In the red zone, you got TJ Watt dropping in pass coverage. Not sure if that's the best way to utilize him, especially in the red zone, the most important part. But the Steelers do have a good defense. They're going to get some stops. I think it'll be good enough to win them games. But if they want to make the playoffs or make a run in the playoffs, you got to see that offense step up. I mean, I don't know what you expect if every single home game, fire Canada chances like the biggest part of the game. Like, you have an entire fan base like just blatantly rooting against the person calling your offense, calling plays. They had the little clip of when George Pickens scored a touchdown. Everyone's going crazy in the box. Matt Canada just has no reaction. So something isn't there clicking offensively. And I think they have a good defense that can help them win games, but I don't think this defense is so elite that it'll be able to carry them into the playoffs, because, you're not going to be able to play division rival every single week. And that's kind of what I mentioned last week. I was like, this is a classic AFC North matchup. The Steelers just got boat raced on the road. They come home, one or two things go their way, and they find some way to get a victory. Now, I thought the Ravens would win. They should have won, but I don't think that defense is good enough to carry them. I think they have a solid defense, but I don't think it's going to be able to carry them to the playoffs.
All right, man. Last one up. Hot or not, the Denver Broncos are the worst team in the NFL.
Uh, that's not a hot take. I think it's like the opposite of what you were asking me. Because offensively, well, for the Steelers, offensively they've been pretty solid this year. I know Russ has had decent numbers statistic wise, but defensively it's just atrocious. Like once you get 70 put up on you, regardless. I mean, the Bears, we thought they were the worst team in the league. They were down 28 points to them. So it's not looking good for Denver right now. Zach Wilson goes in to your home stadium, is able to win. That's a guy who, coming into the season, especially last year, we were like, can he even play quarterback in the league? So it's tough, man. A lot of teams are having their bounce back game against this Broncos defense. So there's some bad teams out there, man. You want to look at the Giants. They're not doing too well right now. Carolina Panthers and Bryce Young, he's out there just throwing to no one that's open. So they touched on the Vikings, the Bears. There's some bad teams. But if you want to say right now it's the Broncos, especially considering the contract of their quarterback and head coach and the expectations going into this year, it's not a hot take. The Broncos have been pretty bad.
Yeah, losing to Nat Hackett must have been real tough in that locker room. I'll tell you what,
Yeah,
man.
a little revenge game.
Whatever it was, he had that chip on his shoulder, man. It's going to move us to the Week 6 pick'ems, man. Thursday night football, another primetime golden game in the NFL gives us. The Denver Broncos play the Kansas City Chiefs. You just talked about them being, the worst team in the league, quite possibly. They're up there, whatnot. Just give me the Chiefs. I overanalyzed that last Broncos game a few weeks back, so I'll just give me the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think Kansas City continues to, strengthen their win streak. Patrick Mahomes gets back on track. Kelsey, a little banged up. We'll see if he goes. Probably won't have to against this Denver team, but yeah, bleak times looking ahead for Bronco fans in that organization, but I think the Chiefs kind of roll right here.
Next one up, man, Baltimore Ravens. They played the Tennessee Titans on the road, man. I just got the Ravens. You mentioned last week the personnel issues, the drops. Bateman had a horrible game. Zay Flowers, slipped on a deep ball that probably would have been a touchdown if he just stayed on his feet. Stuff like that, man. Mark Andrews had a lot of drops as well. I think they had a combined 9 drops in that game, or whatever the number was. It was pretty bad, especially, playing a division rival. Now you go play the Tennessee Titans, who have struggled so far against the AFC North. And, this should be one that should be able to take care of. Titans offense has not looked very well. Know about their run defense and what they can do. But I just think the Ravens on the road, they're a better team. I don't think they'll have as many drops as they did last week. And if they're just able to catch those passes that they had a couple miscues on, it should be an easy dub for them on the road.
Yeah, I think the Ravens get it done on the road here as well. Kind of just, touching on what you just said. You just mentioned it, man. If they clean up some of those things on the perimeters, get guys open a little bit more, create better separation. Odell, he was out there, but doesn't look like the Odell we know. You touched on those drops from Zay Flowers, Bateman in the end zone, literally a touchdown. Nelson Aguilar, as a Philly fan, doing what he does best. But yeah, the Titans are interesting. It's like every other week they win. So I think that's literally what it's been so far. And they just lost last week. So, history says they win this week. But I just think the Ravens are a touch better. I like Baltimore right here.
Yeah, I'm looking back. They lost last week, man. Week before that, they did beat the Bengals. So maybe they're on the right track. But that's good enough for, almost a 500 record. It's going to bring us to our next matchup, man. The only winless team left in the NFL at this point in the year, and it's the Carolina Panthers. They travel to Hard Rock Stadium down there in Miami Gardens, play a high-octane Dolphins offense, man. No bias in that statement at all. Give me the Dolphins, man. This should be, an easy dub for the Dolphins on paper, regardless of the fact. I want to see them get pressure like they did last week against Danny Dimes, finally getting some sacks. I just want to see that defense step up. Vic Fangio finally putting Kader Kohou in the slot, letting Eli Apple on the outside, exactly how it should be. He's making some midseason adjustments, getting him a little time to get back into the groove of things. But like what I saw last week, Hopefully, Dolphins can get Jalen Phillips back soon. And then shout out Andrew Van Ginkel, man. He's been tremendous off that edge this year.
Yeah, this is a very tough place to be if you're a Panthers fan or player. I mean, arguably top 5 team in the league going against arguably the worst team in the league. So Miami at home, there'll be a bunch of points scored for the Dolphins. They probably go up a couple touchdowns and just cruise the rest of the way. But, I mean, on the Panthers side, at this point, like, you just want to see some kind of improvement for the offense. Bryce Young, he's looked okay, had some up and downs, a little inconsistent. But, yeah, Miami at home, that offense, yeah, I'll take the Dolphins.
14-2 at their last 16 home games. So
They get Jeff Wilson back, too, don't they?
yeah, they're looking to activate him. A-Chan probably out for 3 weeks.
They might just flip him.
Yeah, this is literally. But, I mean, last year we saw Jeff Wilson go crazy in a game against the Browns. So, I mean, it's right up his alley, man. San Fran guy. It's going to bring us to our next matchup, man. New Orleans Saints travel to play the Texans, man. The Saints looked real good last week, man. You know, I was high on the Texans.
The Saints look that good or the Patriots just look that bad? Like, let's
probably
be real.
both, man. I mean, you can't knock. They played well.
I think Derek Carr had like under 200 yards passing or something like that.
I mean, did they really need 200 yards passing?
No, not at all. That's what I'm saying. It's like
a game was over before it started.
It was, yeah. Once Mac threw that pick six, it was a wrap.
I mean, you go up, bro. You just it is what it is. But you know, the Saints, they're kind of like that up and down team that we've seen so far this year. The Texans choked last week. I mean, they drive C.J. Stroud. Drives down the field, scores a touchdown, gives them that lead, and you let Desmond Ridder, running quarterback, they set it up for the game winner themselves. They go ahead, punch a fourth quarter game-winning drive in against that Texans defense, but, you know, the Saints defense might give them some problems, but C.J. Stroud has looked nothing but, you know, the best rookie quarterback in the class and, you know, arguably, you know, a top 20, you could say top 15 quarterback up until this point in this season. So wherever you have him,
probably higher than that, honestly. Yeah.
So, you know, he might make some mistakes, but I think the Texans get it done at home. They need a bounce back win in a big way.
Yeah, I like the Texans here as well. And, you know, offensively, when you look at these teams, the Texans they're clicking right now. Now, I know Tank Dell went down, I think, with a concussion, so that'll be a big hit. He was an explosive play for those guys out there, but the Saints have kind of been, I don't think they've really found their identity yet on offense. They were kind of throwing the ball a lot early, and then Kamara comes back, and then they just, like, check it down to him and run it to him every single play, and then they didn't really do much at all, anything offensively against the Patriots. Like you said, they kind of just got that lead and coasted. So I still think the Saints are trying to figure out who they are, play calling offensive-wise. So I don't think it'll be a tough game. Texans are a young team, you know, they're just kind of playing free. They got really nothing to lose. And C.J. Stroud, you mentioned, you said 20 to 15. I mean, the way he's playing, he's right now top 10, top 12 quarterback. He's playing really, really good football. So at home, he's been a great leader for this team. It looks like they got their franchise guy. And I think, you know, when you have a franchise guy and you go in, you expect to beat teams at home like the Saints. So I'm going to pick the Texans.
You mentioned the Saints' identity. I think they have their identity. The fact that Derek Carr went down with that shoulder injury, he has not been fully healthy. I think that's why they've, you know, the past couple weeks they kind of leaned towards that run game and that check down because he's not all there right now. And you could see it in his play and just his, you know, ability to throw the deep ball or even take the chances down the field. It hasn't been the same since that.
Although he did have a nice one last week to Olave, who dropped it in the end zone.
He did,
which was like that Dez dropped it. Like he caught it, but just didn't finish it to the ground. You know, crossed the goal line, everything would have been. Well, it would have been nice for fantasy, but it didn't matter. I was getting smoked anyways. Shout out DJ Moore.
Shout
and
out
ETN.
Jamar Chase, bro. Put me in a body bag. But it's going to take us to our next one, man. Washington Commanders travel to Atlanta to play the Falcons. And, you know, Commanders coming off a tough game last week, Thursday Night Football. Atlanta Falcons coming off a high with that fourth quarter game-winning drive. Yeah, give me the Falcons, man. Bijan Robinson has looked very electric in that backfield, catching passes, running the football. And Desmond Ridder did look a little bit better throwing the football last week. You were higher on the Commanders than I am. I'm not a believer in Sam Howell or the lack of offensive line that they even have, and Sam Howell going on pace to be the most sacked quarterback of all time. So give me the Falcons at home.
I'm gonna go off what you mentioned. The Falcons coming off a very big win, comeback win, and the Commanders getting embarrassed in prime time. So I think we kind of see these teams kind of even out, where we saw the lows of the lows for the Commanders and the highs for the Falcons. I think they kind of meet back in the middle, and I think the Commanders get back right on track. I mean, I think they're the better team. You mentioned Sam Howell has been the most sacked quarterback offensively. He's under pressure literally more than any other quarterback in the league, but he hangs in the pocket and he makes big throws. I think they need to get Terry McLaurin more involved. You saw that last game. Wasn't really getting him touches. It was a lot of Logan Thomas, who's a nice safety valve, but you want to see Jahan Dotson. You want to see, Curtis Samuel, those explosive weapons they have on the outside, especially Terry McLaurin, who's a arguably top 10 receiver, get the ball more. So Eric Bieniemy, I like what he's done offensively for this team. They just have no time. Against the Falcons, they have a solid defense. Falcons are one of those teams, they're just cheapy. They like to hang around games, So I don't think it'll be a big scoring game offensively, but I think the Commanders are better. I like their defense too. Chase Young has come back. He's looked a lot like really explosive. Now, Emmanuel Forbes, he's been getting cooked. Like, it's tough. He's a rookie cornerback coming to the league a very, very bad couple weeks, but I think they take this extended time. They get right. They figure some things out. Maybe it's moving him to the bench till he's more ready, but I think the Commanders are the better team, and like I mentioned, they just got embarrassed on national television, and I don't think they let it happen again. But if they do lose, I wouldn't be upset.
It's going to bring us to the next game, man. Indianapolis Colts travel to Jacksonville because they're finally back in the United States in Jacksonville. They play the Jags, man. Minshew mania for the Colts, Anthony Richardson out once again. AC, think sprain, so he'll be out for a few weeks. Colts, they get Jonathan Taylor back last week. Zach Moss, huge breakout game. Taylor probably ramp up his workload as he gets back in, into the groove of things and whatnot. But Jags coming off a big win against, one of the better teams in the AFC and the Buffalo Bills. At home, it seems like I say this every week, but if the Jags truly think that they are a top team in that AFC conference, this is a game that needs to be won. AFC South matchup, you're at home against a team without their starting quarterback. I know Minshew, Anthony Richardson, people might say right now, maybe same playing level, whatever. He's a backup quarterback. He's a veteran. You got to get a win, especially on your own turf, finally getting back to Jacksonville.
Yeah, Minshew's definitely, I think he's a starting caliber quarterback. I mean, ask the Jets, ask who else?
The Broncos.
The Patriots, like these teams that just have no quarterback, like whatsoever. Maybe the Bears a couple weeks ago, but not now. But, yeah, I think Minshew is definitely good enough to win games, but like you mentioned, the Jags at home. Want to see Trevor Lawrence be a little more consistent. Those explosive plays for the offense started clicking just a little bit against the Bills. End of the game, he had that nice fade to Calvin Ridley. ETN got going on the ground, which always helps. So I want to see the Jags build off of that. I thought, they get a kind of catch Buffalo lacking off of that big win against Miami at their, home away from home over there in London. So coming back to the States, to their, literal home, like you mentioned, against a division rival, I just think the Jags are a little bit better. Anthony Richardson was playing really well, though. He's super dynamic. That running element that he adds just stretches his defense out so much. But Gardner Minshew is serviceable. I think it'll be a decent game. But like you mentioned, if the Jags want to be considered one of those top teams, if Trevor Lawrence wants to be, an elite quarterback everyone thinks he can be, they got to be more consistent offensively, and they got to win these games. So I think they do that, and I think the Jags handle business at home.
Next game up, man, the Seattle Seahawks travel to Cincinnati to play the Bengals, man. And I kind of mentioned it in the hot or not. Are the Bengals back? Are they not? I'm really not buying it. One game, Joe Burrow looked pretty good. He finally able to throw that deep ball, though. That was the key. So, it's a positive sign for Bengals fans and, the Bengals organization and his ability to connect on that deep ball with Jamar Chase. But a week ago, we were talking about should Joe Burrow be benched, blah blah blah, whatever it is, man. The Seahawks, on the other hand, it's tough for them right now. I mean, one week they look really good, one week they look questionable as well. My prediction is on the road, tough game. I think we see a little bit of what we saw from the Bengals 2 weeks ago where Jamar Chase in the locker room, Mr. Always Open. I think the Seahawks get a grinded game out against the Bengals and they get a dub on the road, man.
Yeah, I think the Bengals win this one, and I think it could be a pretty comfortable victory as well. Seahawks offensively, they've been solid. Kenneth Walker, he's been serviceable on the ground, but Geno Smith, he got banged up early in the year, and we just haven't seen that explosiveness that we usually see. Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, slowly coming along, and then JSN has been, basically just unseen in this offense, not really producing at all. So I want to see the offense get going more, but for the Bengals, we kind of see them trending in that upward projection. T. Higgins, is he going to be coming back? I know he's still banged up. A lot of question marks there. But, I mean, if you got Jamar Chase playing the way he is, now I do know the Seahawks have some solid corners. They got, Tariq Woolen and the rookie Witherspoon, but you still want to just give Jamar Chase those chances deep, intermediate, or, right at the line of scrimmage. Regardless, just get the ball in his hands. And I think as long as Joe Burrow can stay upright and just get the ball to Jamar, the Bengals will be okay. The defense played better, was against the Cardinals, but created some turnovers, got after the quarterback. So I think that was a good, build-off win, and I think they get a solid win at home here for Cincinnati.
Next game up, man, Minnesota Vikings travel to Chicago to play the Bears. NFC North showdown. Just talked about the Vikings, possibly being one of the worst teams. I mean, you could argue the Bears are also up there. No Justin Jefferson, huge loss for the Vikings this week. I mean, it's going to be a tough one. Bears at home. Did we see the Justin Fields we saw for the past 2 weeks to where, he looked like a quarterback that could compete in this league? We'll see if they can keep it up for a third week in a row. But, I think the Bears get it done. Khalil Herbert missing some time. They're going to pick up the slack. Justin Fields with his legs, ability to run the football. Just the fact that Justin Jefferson's out, they do have some other weapons. Jordan Addison started looking good. They got KJ Osborne and, maybe the ground game between Madison and Akers they try to get going this week against the Bears. But regardless of the fact, man, Justin Fields' DJ Moore connection the past 2 weeks has just been going dumb. And I think they look to continue it. And I think they get a dub at home in a big way.
Yeah, when you look at these two teams, they're like two teams literally just trending in the opposite directions the past couple of weeks, where the Vikings, they have just been going straight down. Now we're talking about guys getting traded, Jefferson on IR. Is he really injured? He's being dubbed. Does he really want to play there? No contract. I mean, KJ Osborne, he's your now number one. What does that really bring for you? Defensively, they've been, just allowing teams to move up and down them. And then for the Bears, they started off very, very rough. But now, past couple of weeks, they found their stride. Justin Fields, like you said, has been able to find DJ Moore a bunch of times, has a perfect passer rating, I believe, when targeting him. So their confidence is just getting up and up. And, in this league, that's really all that matters from the quarterback spot. And when you have a dynamic athlete like Justin Fields playing with that confidence and has a true number one receiver, it's tough to stop. Defensively, you want to see more from the Bears, but they're also kind of young on that side as well. But I just don't think the Vikings offer much of a threat, and you can see one big Justin Fields run or one big throw to DJ Moore or Cole Kmet over the middle, and this game can kind of get out of hand, whereas the Vikings with no Justin Jefferson, I don't know if they have the firepower to stay with the Bears right now, which is kind of crazy to say at this point of the season. But, I mean, Justin Fields and DJ Moore are just one big play waiting to happen. Mooney's been open. Justin Fields just hasn't been able to get to him. They've just been off very, very slightly. So if he hits one of those big plays to Mooney, that's another play that can kind of blow this game open. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for the Bears here on offense to create some big plays, whereas you look at the Vikings offensively, not sure where their big play is going to come from, and defensively, they've just been allowing big plays. So like you mentioned, division rival at home, the Bears kind of have something to prove. Justin Fields wants to show that he's that guy, so I think they get it done at home.
Next game up, man, the undefeated San Francisco 49ers travel to Cleveland to play the Browns week after the bye. Tough way for the Browns to, start that second half of the season post-bye, or whatever you want to call it. But biggest question right now for the Cleveland Browns, Deshaun Watson, will he play? Didn't practice Monday. Not exactly sure about today. Did a little throwing on the side, whatever it is. But this is barring Deshaun Watson starts. Give me the Browns. I can't not take the Browns. If he doesn't start, you still give me the Browns at this point, man. I'm just banking everything. That defense, you're going to have to see them step up in a big way. I know it's this 49ers team so dynamic, so electric. I want to see what they can do to compete against this team. Do I realistically think they're going to win? Probably not, but it's me and my heart picking the Browns. Deshaun Watson, if he were to play, come back and looked healthy like he did not 2 weeks ago, now 3 weeks ago, the last time he played football. They got a shot to beat the 49ers. If they don't, P.J. Walker is going to be the Cleveland Browns starter. So you can imagine how this is going to look. But, yeah, I mean, the 49ers, everything's stacking their way. They might be undefeated. I still pick the Browns.
I'm just going to say this, man. Like, before I did, like, any research or anything, I was just looking at the schedule and stuff. I had the Browns, bro. I did. I think this is the perfect game. The 49ers, I think they're obviously the clear-cut best team, but on prime time, the way they just dominated the Cowboys and everyone's just like, they're so good, they're so good. This is like the perfect game, kind of like I mentioned with the Steelers and Ravens last week, where they're kind of a, coming down to earth moment for this 49ers team. Right now they're riding high, whereas you get the Browns coming off of a bye, give those guys, another week to get fully healthy. They got an extra week to game plan for a team like the 49ers, and which would obviously, like, if I wanted any team to play after a bye, it'd be the 49ers, just because of how good they are offensively in that scheme and just how, hot they are right now. The Browns have a really good defense. We know that, maybe not, as great or as all-time as they were looking earlier, but still they have a solid defense. And Deshaun Watson, like you mentioned, he kind of showed that he was playing solid quarterback. Now it's on the road for the Niners. It's probably going to be an ugly weather game. The Browns are going to show up regardless. That stadium gets pretty rocking when Cleveland's a good team as well. So it just had, Browns upset written all over it, like, 13-10 or something like that. But I saw the headlines today is like Deshaun Watson's not practicing after being medically cleared to play last week and having a bye week. Like, I just don't know what's going on right now. So I'm not sure, like, even if Watson plays, like, how much can you trust him? Now, if, Watson was a full go, like, no issues, he's full participant, I had the Browns. Like, I think the Browns can win, but Deshaun Watson still not practicing. Like you mentioned, didn't practice yesterday. I don't believe he practiced today, coming off of bye, had a full week to get healthy. That's concerning to me, so I'm going to just take the safety with the 49ers. But if Watson plays and he's fully healthy and he's just like, I don't know, putting like a Houdini or something, it's like just trying to fake the entire league out, it's like some like strategy to think the 49ers aren't going to be playing a healthy Deshaun Watson. I'm not too sure. So I'm going to pick the 49ers here and stay safe. But if Watson was fully healthy, like, I think this would be a perfect upset moment. I would have took the Browns. And I was going to take the Browns until I saw that report. So I think the 49ers are going to win, right, if Watson isn't playing fully healthy. And, the 49ers are just a very good football team. Like, I mean, there's not much to say. They're the clear-cut best team right now.
Yeah, so it's a right shoulder contusion. I mean, basically, it's tough because it's below the surface. You really can't see if, the mobility's there, like the pain tolerance, whatever. But only Deshaun knows, what it feels like. So he could be medically cleared, and the fact that he's still sitting out of practice means that something's just not feeling right in that bone, because you really can't see it heal or how it heals or when it heals, and he's literally the only person I'd be able to tell you. But yeah, it's not looking good for him. P.J. Walker, would have been nice to have him 2 weeks ago as opposed to, DTR with Kevin Stefanski's garbage game plan. But I did send you this. I got to shout out my boy Martin Emerson on the outside, man, leading in probably, all the great statistical categories you can as a corner. Highly underrated. 3 Pro Bowl corners. I said it. Best secondary in the NFL. they're gonna have it cut out for him against the Niners. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
it's gonna be a very
Test.
tough. Yeah, very very tough test against this 49ers offense that is just literally looks unstoppable. The play calling, the scheme, Shanahan's running, and Brock Purdy kind of showing he's not a system quarterback, getting out, creating, throwing the ball down the field, playing with a lot of confidence. It's like every single play I watch the 49ers. Like if I look up, it's just like, oh, Brandon Ayuk, 20-yard crossing route. It's like, oh, Christian McCaffrey on a check down 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage goes for 12 yards. It's just crazy the way they run the ball, the way they move the ball, they get those playmakers involved. So it's going to be tough, man. And then defensively, I mean, if you watch the game, you've seen it, Fred Warner, they got playmakers everywhere. So 49ers team, they're kind of crazy right now.
Implementing a play middle of Sunday, it took from the Lions on that touchdown.
Yeah.
They threw to Kittle too. So it's Shanahan, man. Maybe he gets his first, big one he's been looking for. Regardless, man, next team up, yeah, I would have said this team or the Broncos. The New England Patriots travel to Vegas to play the Raiders. Just give me the Raiders. I think I've said enough. I said Belichick should be out. And also, someone else said that on NFL Network or whatever it was. They're getting paid millions. That Belichick should be gone, and I'm sitting in a room right now. So,
yeah, man, exactly. It's common thought, man. Everyone just thinks it's time. Yeah, not too much to say about either one of these teams right now. Raiders against the Packers didn't even look that good at home. The Patriots just got shut out at home. Give me the Raiders, Jimmy G revenge game, and Josh McDaniels.
Is Tom Brady the greatest eraser of all time?
Yeah, who said that? Shannon Sharp, I think. Yeah. It's looking like it.
No doubt. He made Belichick look like a first ballot Hall of Famer all those years. But the Detroit Lions, man, they travel to Tampa Bay to play the Buccaneers at home. And honestly, I think this is like low-key matchup of the week right here.
Good game.
Best matchup there is. Jared Goff on the road. It's a test for him. I mean, you always talk about how good they play in that dome. Well, they're going to be playing outside, sunny, hot, South Florida, Southwest, South Florida, Central, whatever you want to call it. It's close enough. Tampa Bay, West Coast. I really think it's a close game, but I think the Lions get it done on the road. I mentioned those, the way they've been playing those weapons earlier. The Bucks, Mike Evans having a big year so far. Just once again, I've seen Baker Mayfield his whole career. I've seen the highs, the lows. He could get you a couple of dubs, get that energy up in the locker room. When he faces those great teams, it's going to show, man. If the Lions, Aiden Hutchinson could get to him, he's been balling so far this year. If he could get a little pressure on Baker, we knows what happens to Baker in the pocket when there's a little bit of pressure. So give me the Lions just for that reason.
I'm going to take the Bucks here at home, coming off of a bye. Another week to get healthy. I know Mike Evans got banged up in that last game, so the perfect timing for that bye week. Should be, ready to go. I don't know. You mentioned Baker. He's got these guys playing nice right now. I think he's on one of those highs, so I think they continue to ride that high. The Lions' defense has been really good. A lot of those young players making plays, but I want to see more consistency right now from that Lions defense. On the road, not in that dome. They just played against the Carolina Panthers, and I know Bryce Young got a couple garbage time touchdowns, but was still at times moving the ball when he wasn't, throwing some ugly interceptions. So more consistency from that Lions defense. Offensively, I mean, they are what they are. They're fine. Jared Goff standing in the pocket. He's going to find those guys. How healthy is Amon-Ra and Jahmyr Gibbs, too, explosive weapons on that offense that both just didn't play last week. So I want to see them get back healthier. But I just think the Bucks at home kind of get a little statement win for the Lions. I think it'll be a shootout, a bunch of points scored because both of these offenses have been clicking so far. But I think the Bucks get it done at home.
It's going to bring us to the next game, man. West Showdown, NFC and AFC. Or NFC West, excuse me. I don't know why I said AFC. NFC West Showdown. Cardinals travel to SoFi to play the Rams. I also think this one's going to be a pretty decent game, man. The Rams, Cooper Kupp back. You saw him clicking. Puka still getting his touches. Van Van Jefferson get shipped off to Atlanta earlier today. So, I mean, they still got 3 weapons on the outside for the Rams, and they're looking well between Tutu, Puka, Cooper Kupp back, Matthew Stafford looking healthy with that arm. Offenses look really phenomenal for the Rams than what we expected coming into this year because what they did last season. And the Cardinals also defied expectations so far. Josh Dobbs, I think he threw his first interception last week, and he threw 2 of them. Regardless of that fact, man, they've been playing, out of their minds so far this season. I think it's going to be a good game. I think the Rams, pull away with it in the second half due to that offense. But the Cardinals playing good football nonetheless. James Conner a little banged up as well. So
I think he's on IR actually.
So, oh yeah.
Earlier today they just put him on, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I actually think you're right. So no James Conner. I mean, he's been that workhorse for that offense, taking a little pressure off Dobbs and everything. So it's going to be tough. I think the Rams get it done, double-digit win probably this week.
Yeah, this is also going to be a good game. Division games they always play them tough. But like you mentioned, Rams, man. I mean, going into last week as an Eagles fan, I kind of knew they were just going to throw all over the Eagles, which is pretty much what happened in the first half. And if they can kind of come out like that, Cooper Kupp and Puka both got going early. I don't think they'll be facing the same defensive front pass rush they did from the Eagles that kind of shut them out in the second half. But if this offense can keep going, Stafford standing back dealing, Tutu Atwell got into the end zone last week, and then Puka and Cooper Kupp. I mean, if they're both healthy playing at the apex of their game, they got the potential to be arguably one of, if not the best receiving duo. Puka, he's a rookie, but what he's been showing so far this year, he's been the go-to guy for Stafford. And even last week when Kupp was kind of, first coming back, he's the one that got in the end zone for them. So those 2 guys on the outside, and, they move him into the slot offensively, that passing game with a veteran like Stafford, they should be able to put up a bunch of numbers this year. So I think, kind of like you mentioned, man, I think, in the second half, it's just a little too much. They pull away a big play down the field, and I think the Rams get it done at home. Although, do they even have home games? They're kind of like the Chargers. They play in the same stadium. So,
yeah, I mean, you're not lying. Who did the Chargers or Rams play last week? Oh, they played the Eagles. Yeah, I think there was more Eagles fans out there.
There was more Eagles fans.
Yeah, I remember seeing the stand.
The Chargers had a bye, so it was like a home game for them anyways.
Yeah, man. It's going to bring us next game up, man. Your Eagles travel to MetLife. They play the Jets, man. And, Zach Wilson coming off the best 2 games of his season. And, I mean, 2 weeks ago played, the best football maybe in his career of all time. So, the Jets maybe riding a little high. They get a win last week, revenge game for Nate Hackett, everything like that. But the Eagles, haven't really been that wow team when it comes to wins, but still, at the top of the NFC with the 49ers at this point in the year. You really can't go against it. A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, they got that connection going. I know you'll talk about that. Jalen Carter, I mean, if it wasn't for how C.J. Stroud is playing, you would say, he's rookie. He's going to be defensive rookie of the year, but you could say he's the best rookie of the class. But nonetheless, man, Jets, it's going to be a tough game for him, against that Eagles front. Give Zach Wilson some problems. I think the Eagles just do enough on offense. Nothing too crazy, nothing too fancy. They get a nice win on the road against the Jets.
I'm going to take the Eagles here as well. And you said nothing too crazy, nothing too fancy. Well, I think the Jets defensively, I believe both of their corners got a little banged up last week in that Broncos game. And I think the Eagles can kind of make this look ugly. A.J. Brown, 3 straight games with 100-plus receiving yards. Dallas Goedert finally had his first big breakout game last week. I think he had 8 catches for a touchdown, over 100 yards. And then Devontae Smith, he didn't get going, but, next week could be his day where he goes for, 10 catches, 6 catches, and puts up 100 yards and a touchdown or 2. So it just all depends. And offensively, that line is the best offensive line in football. DeAndre Swift has been looking like shady back there, seeing those shades of LaShawn McCoy. So it's nice to see a stable run game. The Eagles have always been able to run the ball, but, ever since LaShawn McCoy, we've never had an explosive player like Swift back there who just always seems to get positive yards. So I think we see a very big game from the offense. Jalen Hurts, it's like week by week, he's looking to get more and more into his old rhythm. Finally had a really, really good game. I think he had back-to-back 300-yard games through the air in these past couple weeks. So I think they continue to air this ball out against the Jets defense, who they have a good defense, but we just saw a couple injuries. Maybe they're banged up, nicked up, not fully at 100%. Jalen Hurts will have time back there to hit some of those deep plays. You want to just give your guys chances, no matter who's on them, because A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, you think they're some of the best weapons in the league. It doesn't matter who's covering them. You still think they can go down and make plays, and I think that's true. And defensively, this is a very tough matchup for the Jets. I mean, I believe Elijah Vera Tucker, one of their guards, just went out for the year, I think last week or the week before. And you got Jalen Carter, who's arguably, you mentioned, if it wasn't for C.J. Stroud, I think he's still in contention for best rookie, period. Had 2 big sacks last week, still getting the pressures. Defensive line starting to pick up. Hassan Reddick he had 2 sacks as well. Finally got that cast off his hand. So that defensive line is flying around. Linebackers, not the best in coverage, but they're still flying around, making big tackles. And in the secondary, I mean, at this point, I just kind of accepted it. Like, the teams are going to be able to pass on us. There's going to be big plays. We're just banged up, just not fully healthy back there. Guys just aren't playing, to what we expect them. It kind of is what it is at this point. We're not the greatest team of all time. So if there's one weakness with the Eagles, I will say it's that secondary. But guys are still playing good enough. Reed Blankenship's making big plays. Bradbury and Slayer are playing decent football on the outside. So the secondary is okay, but that defensive line is just going to get after it. And I think the offense has a big week against the Jets, man. So I'm going to pick the Eagles to stack up these wins before we got a tough gauntlet. This schedule coming up is, I don't know if I'm going to be picking the Eagles every single game much longer. I'm going to just say that.
It's going to bring us to another NFC team, man. Sunday Night Football showdown of New York between the Giants and the Bills. Giants on the road in Buffalo against the Bills. I mean, Danny Dimes 1-11 in his career in prime time, or
probably won't even be playing this game.
Yeah, got that neck injury. Who's their backup?
Tyrod.
T-Mobile. He might cause a little fits for the Bills, but I think they know him. Yeah, pretty well. T-Mobile, man. I mean, he had a nice little run in Buffalo that kind of, put him on the map, but
made the playoffs.
He's got to be 30 something by now.
He's up there.
Yeah, so maybe not as mobile as he once was. Maybe it's like Cricket Wireless, but
Cricket Wireless.
Yeah, I mean, the Giants, it's just, they're in shambles. Every week I'm seeing a new clip of Evan Neal, whether he's calling out the Giants fans as well after it.
They're just missing blocks.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, how can you're on tape, man. Like, whether the fans are yelling at you or not, you're a professional football player and a right tackle in the NFL, and you're missing assignments. I think should be more worried about what's being said in that film room versus what's said on Twitter. Regardless of the fact, man, the Bills coming off a tough loss over there overseas, skip over the pond, but they come back to the United States, and I think they get a dub here. Josh Allen, Gabe Davis, that connections look good. Stephon Diggs, if he's not throwing a tablet on the sideline, he's looking good as well. James Cook, just get him the rock. Tough injury, Matt Milano with the leg injury. And I think they lost their D tackle, Draymond Jones, as well. But regardless of the fact, Saquon's still questionable, I believe. We'll see if he's good to go. But give me the Bills at home, man.
Yeah, you pretty much covered everything. I mean, tough injury for Daniel Jones, but those weapons, that offensive line has not really given him any chance to do anything offensively. And then defensively, they're just always on the field trying to just play keep up. Bills coming off a tough loss, kind of was able to hide it because it was like at 9 o'clock in the morning. Everyone's not fully awake, fully watching. If that game was on prime time, it'd be a whole different story. But tough loss. You want to see that offense and Josh Allen get moving more. And Giants, I think it'll be a perfect opportunity. Now, this will be on prime time. Everyone will see the Bills blow out the Giants and think they're the best team. But regardless, the Bills at home Bills Mafia will be rocking. It should be a get-right game for the Bills, and I think they handle business pretty convincingly.
the Dolphins had 13, around 13 sacks to start the season, and they came in the Giants and they got 4 in 1 week. So, I mean, it was an easy 4 too. I think it was more than that, to be honest. And
Yeah.
Daniel Jones got hurt anyways. Regardless of the fact, man, it brings us to Monday Night Football. Once again, the Cowboys on primetime. They play. You probably see more Cowboys fans here at SoFi Stadium than Chargers fans, regardless
100%.
of the fact. You brought up Shady, but I keep seeing a clip of him. Dak is so ass. Can I say that on live TV? Good thing this is our podcast, man. But I mean, if you watched that game last week, it was just rough. I mean, I know all the picks you could say, there's a slant tip ball, things happen. There was some questionable throws by Dak, and very questionable for a guy that said he was going to have less than 10 this year. And he kind of just said, I was on a good pace. Let me just throw it all away, man. And, the memes of if the Cowboys aren't scoring, 10 sacks, 5 touchdowns a game defensively, Dak's in the same category as Mac and Daniel Jones. And I mean, they're not really wrong. I mentioned it a few weeks ago, that endless Cowboy cycle of we them boys. We're going to the Super Bowl. Dak sucks. Maybe we're on the way back. We're at the Dak sucks phase, and maybe they have a close game with the Chargers. Maybe pull it out in the end because the Chargers are the worst coached team in football. Regardless of the fact, Chargers coming off a bye. Eckler ready to go, it looks like, as well. Big weapon in that backfield. Obviously, no Mike Will and stuff like that, but give me the Chargers at home.
Yeah, I think I'm going to take the Chargers here as well. The Cowboys, it's just tough, man. It's like they're America's team, so they're just always going to be under the biggest microscope, especially during prime time. So I think this will just be another example. Last week against the 49ers, it was just tough, man. I mean, the Niners just clearly the better team. And I was wrong, man. I was wrong. I said, it's going to come down to the quarterback, Purdy versus Dak. I thought Dak would pull it off, but clearly I was wrong. Brock Purdy just looking like the better quarterback overall, and Dak just continuing to kind of lean into his turnover woes. And like you mentioned, I think he had 2-3 interceptions that game. 3 picks, yeah. So not what you want to see on prime time. CeeDee Lamb not really involved at all. Tony Pollard putting the ball on the ground also, I believe. And then defensively just kind of giving up at the end. But can you blame them when the offense is just 3 and out, turnover? You're just on the field the entire game. It's tough. But with that being said, they get to play a Chargers team who are not the 49ers, especially coach-wise. But I think Justin Herbert does just enough. Dak Prescott, in prime time, once again, does he fold? I think he bounces back. They have a better game. But I like the Chargers here. Kind of like you mentioned, at home. I think a couple big plays. Keenan Allen's been really, really great this year. Bye week help him, older player, kind of, get back to 100%. You mentioned Eckler. I'm sure Staley will do something to kind of, have us on our seats at the end of the game to give the Cowboys a chance to win. But I just don't think they pull it off, and I think the Chargers hold on Monday night.
Yeah, no doubt, man. It was Cowboys in prime time again. Jerry Jones did come out and say, someone asked him about the usage of CD, if they wanted to get him the ball more, and he was like, I don't think so, or whatever. I'm tired, bro. Jerry's just got to sell the team at this point, dog.
I think
become the head coach.
He also said Dak can lead him to a Super Bowl, so, he's believing in his guys.
Like, there should be no owner answering football-related questions. Like, that's why you hire a GM and a head coach. But
speaking of GM and head coach, I think it was Frank Wright for the Panthers who came out and kind of said the same exact thing. I guess he was asked a question, and he was talking about owners. He's like, some owners don't really worry about the football thing. I guess they're talking about the draft or something. He's like, other owners kind of like to have their hand in it, basically implying that maybe they wanted C.J. Stroud and not Bryce Young at number 1, but at the end of the day, the owners making the decisions. So it's just funny how, like, all of the players and, the coaches and the personnel staff just don't want the owners making football decisions. But at the end of the day, the owners, they got final say because it's their team.
Yeah, gonna say, this is the guy that signs your paycheck. You don't really have, a choice. I mean, you got to do what they say. It's like some point, but at that point, you should just make yourself an owner, GM of the team. Like
maybe they should just do like what the Packers do and just have no owner.
They don't have an owner?
No, the Packers don't have an owner. I think it's owned by it's like a group, like a percentage thing, but they don't have
they don't have a majority owner.
No, yeah.
I mean, there's always minority owners and stuff like that, but
yeah, the Packers
there's no one that holds the majority, 51%. Yeah. The only publicly owned, not-for-profit major league professional team in the U.S. Instead of having a handful of partners, owned by hundreds of thousands of fans.
Yeah, like you can buy stake in like the team or whatever. Like they're not like owned.
I should have known this, man. I would have had to share a stock of Green Bay football when I was 5 years before I was born or something like that, maybe. But regardless of the fact, it's gonna wrap up Goal to Go episode 60, man. Any last comments, topics, anything like that, man?
Gotta get home, ready for this NBA draft, man. A little fantasy league.
A little week too early NBA draft, man. Shout out to that boy A2, man. Setting up the league, man. Not letting anybody know when the draft was. I mean, you gotta find out via email or when you're sitting right next to me and telling me we got a draft at 9. It's a little shocking. You got 40 minutes to do a little bit of homework. Nonetheless, NBA season upon us. Wemby and Chet went at it yesterday. So you see that little clip? They said, that headbutt unstoppable or whatever.
Yeah, they both was going off.
When Wemby headbutted Chet for an and one lay. Regardless of the fact, man, NBA season should be interesting.
I asked Max earlier. I'm gonna ask you. Do I have can I be a Heat fan? I know I haven't.
Are you actually gonna claim the Heat for once?
Yeah. Do I as a Heat fan? Are you gonna let me claim the Heat?
Sure.
Max said no, I couldn't. But I'm gonna ask you.
I could care less, bro. Whatever you do is your decision, man. I can't tell you to claim him.
You just gotta sign Wall, bro. Let him come off the bench.
Fam, he's just gonna be the next UD of the organization.
No, he can give some solid minutes.
Regardless of the fact, man, my boy Josh Richardson back in Miami. No, it's not getting a lot of buzz and headline Jay Rich. But all right, bro. When Rook 1 starts showing out, I think he was Rook 2 back in the day. Regardless,
I don't know yet. Heat or the Magic. I don't know which one's gonna be my team yet.
The Magic?
Yeah, shout out my dog AMAC, bro. Put me on at FGCU. Especially when they beat the Raptors that year in the first round when the Raptors won the championship.
Oh, for that one game?
Yeah, and they beat them in the playoffs round 1. Yeah, shout out Vooch. It was crazy times, man.
Been a one Magic game. My time in Orlando. It's a nice stadium, man. Downtown Orlando. They got a little something going on, but I don't think it's this. We know it hasn't really been the city for sports, but I mean, I'm hoping the best for the Magic, man. I like them. Palo over there. They got some young talent. Suggs, regardless of the fact.
Both of them.
Yep. They got a little talent, but the Heat, a little Tyler Hero revenge tour, man. Let's hope for it. Anyways, it's going to wrap up episode 60. Once again, Goal to Go pod on TikTok. Like, comment, share. Goal to Go, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, all that, man. Y'all tune in. And until next week, man, appreciate it. Peace.